Hey there, Twisters, and welcome to part 2 of my top 10 Sharks playoff series of all time. So in this video, we're going to look at series number 5, 4, 3, 2, and all the way down to 1. We're going to stretch back all the way to 1994, and we'll revisit series as recent as this past season. I bet you can guess what I'll talk about there. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the big red subscribe button down below because I'm putting out videos on the San Jose Sharks every now and then, along with other videos related to hockey history and hockey culture. Also, you'll see in the video description that I've put a link if you want to support the channel via Venmo. I'd certainly appreciate any contributions that come in there. Also, be sure if you haven't already to check out my part 1, so that's series 10 through 6. And before that, I even put out a video on the top 10 worst Sharks playoff series of all time. Thankfully, we don't have to endure any postseason heartbreak this season, and so that's why I wanted to reflect and kind of revisit the good times for this franchise. Anyway, I hope that you're enjoying this series, and I hope that you enjoy what I have in store for you in the subsequent minutes. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start this countdown in 3, 2, 1. A year removed from a near Cinderella playoff run, the Sharks, now in their 4th season, had qualified for the playoffs in consecutive years. Their opponent, the Pacific Division winning Calgary Flames, had earned the league's 5th ranked offense behind Theo Fleury and captain Joe Nieuwendyk. An offensive track meet we would get, as the 7-game series tallied a total of 61 goals. The Flames dominated the shot clock in Game 1, firing 39 pucks on net, but it was the Sharks who found the back of the net early and often. Down 1-0 early on, San Jose struck for 4 unanswered goals, chasing Trevor Kidd from his net and taking the series opener. They upped the ante further in Game 2, sending another 37 shots on goal. Down 4-3 late in the 3rd period, Calgary's Robert Reichel tied things up at 19-13 to force overtime. But shortly after Theo Fleury committed an elbowing penalty, Ulf Dahlin notched the game-winning goal, sending Team Teal back home unexpectedly up 2-0. The Flames pushed back quickly in San Jose, netting 4 goals in the first period of Game 3, 2 of those coming shorthanded. Sharks coach Kevin Constantine replaced Arturs Irbe with Wade Flaherty, but the switch did nothing to halt the Calgary attack. The Flames struck for 5 more goals en route to a 9-2 shellacking. Game 4 was the Theo Fleury show, as the undersized forward scored a natural hat-trick. The rest of the Flames chipped in, firing 35 shots on goal and evening up the series with another convincing 6-4 victory. Back at the Saddle Dome, the Flames continued to win the special teams battle, notching 2 power play goals in the first. Trevor Kidd made 25 saves in the 5-0 shutout to give Calgary the 3-2 series lead. With Irbe conceding 20 goals in the past 3 games, Constantine started Wade Flaherty in Game 6. The Flames tried to jump on the Sharks' backup, putting 33 shots on net, but as the game progressed, Flaherty became tougher to solve. A 3-goal second period lifted the Sharks to a 5-3 win, forcing Game 7. This was merely an appetizer to Flaherty's otherworldly performance in the series finale. In his final full season as a Shark, the franchise's first ever draft pick, Pat Falloon, lit the lamp for the first period's lone goal. In the second period, Igor Larionov extended the lead to 2-0. But with 41 seconds left, Paul Cruz stopped the bleeding for the Flames. Falloon got on the board once again just 19 seconds into the 3rd period, then assisted on a Craig Janney goal that put San Jose ahead 4-2. But the Flames would relentlessly hammer away at the Sharks' net, finding the nylon 2 more times to force sudden death. Calgary continued their barrage in the extra stanza, but despite numerous second chances, couldn't solve Flaherty. As a 7-year-old kid, I remember riding in the car with my dad during this game, and can't tell you how many times I heard the broadcaster exclaim, "Shot! Rebound! Saved by Flaherty!" It certainly reflected Wade's night, as he stopped 56 of 60 shots. The Sharks survived to force a second overtime. Then, not 90 seconds into the second OT, with the puck in the Flames zone, 20-year-old defenseman Mark Rathje was stripped of the puck by Fleury, who sprinted the other way all alone. Flaherty came out and contested his shot, and the Sharks regained possession. Sergei Makarov collected the puck after Igor Larionov's deke shifted the Calgary defense. Journeyman forward Ray Whitney slipped in behind the defense, catching Makarov's pass and shoveling it past Trevor Kidd. For the 2nd straight year, the Sharks pulled off an unprecedented upset. They would go on to get a taste of reality against the top-seeded Red Wings in a sweep, but nonetheless contributed to building an underdog but competitive culture early in the franchise's history. Joel Quenneville-coached Blues had set a franchise record with 114 points, clinching the President's Trophy and qualifying for the playoffs for the 21st consecutive year. Their opponent, the 8th-seeded Sharks, showed year-over-year improvement under head coach Daryl Sutter, qualifying for the playoffs for the 3rd consecutive year. The Sharks quieted the crowd early in Game 1 with a goal 46 seconds in and went into the 3rd period up 3-2. But it was the Hart and Norris Trophy winning defenseman Chris Pronger who gave his team a comfortable 4-2 lead on a power play goal. St. Louis took Game 1 5-3. Game 2 settled the series into a chippier defensive struggle, totaling 44 penalty minutes. Mike Ricci's power play goal at 14-18 into the 3rd period would be the game winner, sending the Sharks back home with a tied series. The Blues brought more pressure in Game 3, with blue liners Pronger and Al MacInnis pumping out 13 of the team's 32 shots. But Steve Shields was strong in net, making 31 saves to cling to a 2-1 win for San Jose. In Game 4, Marco Sturm and Mike Ricci put San Jose up 2-0, but the Blues knotted things up at 2 heading into the second intermission. Gary Suter broke the tie with under 9 minutes remaining, giving the Sharks an unfathomable 3-1 series lead. The Blues returned home and returned to form in Game 5, utilizing a system that produced the league's 3rd-ranked offense. Within the first 7 minutes, they pumped 3 shots by Shields, leading 3-1 after the first period. The Sharks battled back in the second with goals from Jeff Friesen and Brad Stewart, but once again Pronger was the difference maker in the 3rd period, netting the game-winning goal on the power play. St. Louis then evened up the series at the Shark Tank with an onslaught of second-period chances. Up 1-0 heading into the period, the Blues struck for 5 more unanswered goals, chasing Shields from his net. Netminder Roman Turek stopped 25 of 27 shots to help force Game 7 back at home. Coach Q's Blues had all the momentum on their side to continue their Stanley Cup run. Playing at home, offense clicking on all cylinders, and a goalie in Shields whom they successfully exposed. Nonetheless, Coach Daryl Sutter decided to stick with Shields, and the 27-year-old netminder rose to the occasion. Playing in his final NHL season, 33-year-old forward Ron Stern lit the lamp for the Sharks not 3 minutes into the game. San Jose dealt an even bigger blow at 1949 on a center ice beam from Owen Nolan, his 6th of the series. Jeff Friesen extended the lead to 3-0 in the second period, and the Sharks had the top-seeded Blues on the ropes. In the 3rd period, Scott Young scored his 6th goal of the series at 2:09 to get the Blues back in the game. 3 seconds later, the Sharks' Stefan Matteau took a double minor for high sticking, giving the Blues power play a terrific chance. But despite the man advantage, Al MacInnis took a holding penalty. The Sharks' Vincent Damphousse committed another penalty shortly after, but even so, the Blues' man advantage could not find the back of the net. For the 2nd time in franchise history, the Sharks upset the top-seeded team in the West. They exited in the second round after falling to the Dallas Stars in 5 games. The Sharks were the, if not one of, the Western Conference frontrunners heading into the 18-19 season. San Jose had its struggles in net and for a majority of the season couldn't successfully tailor its offensive scheming around newcomer Erik Karlsson. Nonetheless, they finished second in the Pacific and matched up against the second-year Vegas Golden Knights, who had bested Team Teal in the 2018 conference semis. The Sharks set the series tone early, taking Game 1 5-2. Game 2 was unusual in that the Knights scored 3 goals in the first 7 minutes, chasing Martin Jones from his net, only to be equaled by San Jose by the end of the period. Nonetheless, Vegas triumphed 5-3 to even up the series. In Sin City, the loss of Marc-Edouard Vlasic to injury would hamper the Sharks defensively. In Game 3, the Knights remarkably scored a goal in the first minute of all 3 periods, peppering the net with 40 shots on goal and blowing out San Jose 6-3. In Game 4, Vegas once again chased Martin Jones out of the net in the first period, and Marc-Andre Fleury backed his team with a 28-save shutout in a 5-0 blanking. Evander Kane's blood reached a boiling point as he took 16 penalty minutes and epitomized a Sharks team that had lost its composure. Team Teal was fully immersed in their grave. They hadn't come from behind in a series to win since 2010. But for Games 5 and 6, Martin Jones flipped the playoff switch that helped backstop San Jose to a Cup Finals appearance in 2016. And with the return of Marc-Edouard Vlasic, the Sharks had the opportunity to lock down defensively. Behind 2 power play goals and a stunning pad stretch save from Jones to preserve the lead, the Sharks topped Vegas at home 5-2 to force Game 6. the Golden Knights took the T-Mobile Arena ice, poised to bury their rival once and for all. From the get-go, Vegas fired shot after shot, looking to rattle the Sharks' netminder. San Jose was clutching to a scoreless tie heading into the first intermission, or so we thought. Deep in his zone with 15 seconds remaining, Brent Burns fired a stretch pass to Timo Meier, who bumped the puck from Derek Engelland to a streaking Logan Couture. The playoff phenom beat Fleury glove side to give his team the unexpected lead after one. The Knights' onslaught never let up, and in period 2, Jonathan Marchessault net his third goal of the series, not to be his last. The teams were knotted up at 1 apiece going into period 3. The Vegas barrage continued through regulation. Similar to his Game 5 save, Jones pushed across his crease to kick out a one-timer from a wide-open Riley Smith. The stalemate persisted into overtime and then double OT. Through 80 minutes of Vegas-dominated play, Martin Jones had redeemed himself, ultimately stopping a franchise record 58 shots. The two rivals had just taken 2 penalties apiece, until Barclay Goodrow committed a slash at 10:46. Covering the left point, Tomas Hertl quickly reacted to a deflected pass that scooted to Vlasic. Pickles fired the puck through the neutral zone back to Hertl. And although Shea Theodore kept pace with number 48, he wasn't able to reach across to block a short-handed bid. Fleury came out from his crease to challenge, but the puck miraculously found its way under his pad. The Sharks had escaped their house of horrors and forced a Game 7. Couture at 19:51 in the first, Hertl short-handed in double overtime. When you look back on this series, remember these 2 goals. They were just as big as the ones that would follow 2 days later. The Knights rose to the occasion for their franchise first Game 7, particularly Max Pacioretty, whose 5th goal of the series in the third period put his club up 3-0. It looked as though Vegas had finally silenced San Jose's playoff hopes. But minutes later at 10:47, Captain Joe Pavelski was involved in an awkward post-face-off collision with Paul Stastny, resulting in a concussion and blood running from his head. Collectively unaware of the series of events, the officiating crew called for a 5-minute major to Cody Eakin for cross-checking. Was it a poor call? Despite the ghastly result of the incident, it was clearly the incorrect ruling. The Sharks had a tremendous opportunity to make this a contest once again. But what they did in the following 5 minutes was mesmerizing, something that had been done just once in playoff history. 6 seconds into the extended man advantage, Kevin Labanc picked up a block shot and slapped it to Logan Couture off the left faceoff circle. The puck snuck under Fleury's glove arm to bring the Sharks within 2. 50 seconds later, Labanc banked one of his signature back passes to Erik Karlsson, who directed a shot pass to Tomas Hertl in front of a tight Timo Meier screen, 3-2. The Shark tank was roaring at a level reminiscent of prime Thornton and Marlowe years. With under 2 minutes left in the power play, William Karlsson stripped Timo Meier and darted through the neutral zone, flanked by Riley Smith for a 2-on-1. With prior ownage on Jones, Wild Bill ripped a wrister but missed the net. The Sharks struggled to advance into the Knights zone, but upon doing so, set up yet another crucial screen, in fact, a double screen. Labanc approached the possession just like the previous goal, back passing to Brent Burns. Burns immediately fired to Couture at the other point. Cooch slapped a bullet through the traffic, deflecting off Braden McNabb's leg and evading Fleury's sight. Game tied at 3 with 80 seconds still left in the penalty. 3 apples for the young Labanc. Sharks fans in near chaos. Vegas coach Gerard Gallant called timeout to rest his troops and hopefully soften the crowd. The Sharks penetrated the Knights zone once again. Recognizing a gap in coverage, Kevin Labanc rushed the puck toward the right faceoff circle, pulling up and this time taking the shot. The puck zipped by a screening Timo Meier and plunged into the net to put once doomed San Jose ahead 4-3. Longtime Sharks broadcaster Randy Hahn exclaimed, "I have never seen anything like this in my life," a moment that still gives me chills. But despite stealing momentum in unfathomable fashion, San Jose could not close out the series without making things more interesting. Give credit to Vegas as they lifted their heads and attacked the net relentlessly in the waning minutes. Newly acquired Mark Stone had torched the Sharks' defense, notching 12 points in the series, but was denied by a Statue of Liberty save from Jones. Then with his net empty, Stone cycled the puck down low to Riley Smith, who one-touched the pass to Jonathan Marchessault. Number 81 had slipped through the porous coverage and was rewarded with the equalizing goal, with just 47 seconds left in regulation. In overtime, the Sharks attacked continuously, similar to the Knights in Game 6. Then about 18 minutes in, and despite being virtually benched in overtime, Barclay Goodrow, who committed the Game 6 penalty in double overtime, hopped over the boards, skating with fresh legs. After collecting a puck contested by Joe Thornton, Erik Karlsson connected with the streaking Goodrow. Number 23 maneuvered around the defender, cut sharply across the crease, and evaded Fleury's sliding pad, delivering what will go down as one of the most iconic moments in franchise history. For the first time ever, the Sharks had won a series in which they had trailed 3-1, and it's pretty safe to say that they'll never win a Game 7 in this fashion for a long, long time. The Sharks went on to outlast the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games, albeit controversially, but eventually fell to the would-be champion St. Louis Blues in 6 games. Nonetheless, one might argue this series as the best between the Sharks and a division rival. Recency bias or not, you could even call it the best playoff series ever in their franchise history. But due to the impact that 2 other series had on the franchise, I have this one at number 3. The St. Louis Blues had outlasted 2 worthy adversaries through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. They exercised their demons by defeating last year's Cup champions, the Chicago Blackhawks, in a nail-biting 7 games. Then in round 2, they went back and forth against the top team in the West, the Dallas Stars, prevailing yet again in 7 games. As I described in my previous video, the Sharks were fresh off their own 7-game battle, prevailing against the Nashville Predators. Brian Elliott had backstopped the league's 4th-ranked defense to a 2-1 victory in Game 1, and for the first time this postseason, the Sharks faced a series deficit. Team Teal returned to form in Game 2 with what seemed to be an unstoppable force, a power play quarterbacked by Norris Trophy nominee Brent Burns. Burnsy struck twice on the man advantage, and Martin Jones stopped all 26 shots in a 4-0 shutout. San Jose continued strong defensive play in Game 3 by surrendering just 20 shots on goal. They were stymied in their offensive chances, putting just 14 pucks on net, but nonetheless snuck 3 of them by Elliott to shut the Blues out once again, 3-0. The Blues kicked things into high gear for Game 4. Kyle Brodziak's 2 goals in the second period extended the team's lead to 4-0 and chased Martin Jones from his net for the first time in the playoffs. The Blues returned home off a convincing 6-3 win, looking to regain the series in Game 5. They carried a 2-1 lead into the second period, but found themselves in the middle of some chippy play. Both teams got on the board via the power play, with the Sharks striking twice to head into the third period tied 3-3. Captain Joe Pavelski gave his team the lead just 16 seconds into the third stanza, putting the Sharks just 1 win away from winning the Western Conference. Back at the Shark Tank, an outstanding postseason for Pavelski was once again exemplified, as he was rewarded 4 minutes into the game with his 13th goal of the playoffs. Joel Ward put another 2 by Brian Elliott, and Jonas Donskoy extended the lead further to put things out of reach. Sharpshooter Vlad Tarasenko would net his lone 2 goals of the series after 0 points through the first 5 games. But that clearly wasn't enough as the Sharks triumphed 5-2 and for the first time advanced to the Cup Finals. After being written off following the 2014 reverse sweep to the Kings and missing the playoffs the following year, the Sharks did what was seemingly unthinkable. Though they did not fail to disappoint ultimately, they received a rude awakening in the form of the Penguins, who skated circles around the slower Sharks and dominated the shot clock. After 6 games, Sidney Crosby would hoist the Stanley Cup for the 2nd time in his career. Nonetheless, for the first time in the Thornton and Marleau era, Sharks fans finally saw their team play to its capabilities. I guess look at it this way. The San Francisco Giants and Golden State Warriors broke decades-long championship droughts in the 2010s, with each of them winning 3 titles. We may have to wait a little while longer for the Sharks, but maybe once it rains, it'll pour for Los Tiburones. In their franchise's 2nd season, the Sharks compiled a historically abysmal 11-71-2 record. Playing their first season in San Jose the following year, they started with an 0-8-1 record. 38 games in, they were 11-20-7. But the rest of the way, they went 22-15-9 to firmly clinch the final playoff spot in the West. Their first-round opponent, the Scotty Bowman-coached Red Wings, were riding high with captain Steve Yzerman, multi-cup champion Paul Coffey, a young Nicholas Lidstrom, and leading scorer Sergei Fedorov. Detroit was on the rise to capturing its first Stanley Cup since the Gordie Howe days, 1955 to be precise. The Sharks asserted themselves early in Game 1, as Soviet defectors and first-year Sharks Igor Larionov and Sergei Makarov contributed goals following a tally from teammate Sean Cronin. The Wings closed the gap to 2-1 in the second period and maintained momentum into the third, as Darren McCarty would tie things up 94 seconds in. Another first-year Shark and now color commentator, Jamie Baker, put the Sharks back ahead, only to be answered by Detroit's Greg Johnson. But at 15:46, Czechoslovakian defenseman Vlastimil Krupa notched the game winner to give the Sharks a 1-0 series lead. Having started Bob Essensa in Game 1, Scotty Bowman opted for 21-year-old Chris Osgood to man the pipes in Game 2. The move paid off in spades as Osgood stopped all 22 shots in a 4-0 shutout. Though neither Yzerman nor Fedorov had scored yet, Detroit traveled to San Jose with clear series momentum, though they knew these were not the same Sharks who went winless in their first 9 games. The Wings opened up Game 3 with a Darren McCarty goal 2 minutes in, followed by a tally from Dino Ciccarelli. Late in the second period, Rob Gaudreau cut the lead to 1 on the power play, but Detroit's Sean Burr answered back with just 29 seconds left in the period. Osgood was strong the rest of the way and finished the night with a win, saving 22 of 24 shots. Ciccarelli got on the board again to start the scoring in Game 4, and Greg Johnson added a second goal in the first period to extend Detroit's lead to 2. The Sharks finally got to Osgood in the second period, first shorthanded, then even strength, and lastly on the power play. In between scores, Chris Draper added a goal for the Wings, so the two teams skated into the locker room knotted at 3. At 6:35 into the third, the 5'8" future Hockey Hall of Famer Sergei Makarov scored the game-winning goal, tying the series at 2. For those who don't recall, in this era the NHL followed a 2-3-2 format, meaning the lower-seeded team had home ice for games 3, 4, and 5. Having kept Yzerman and Fedorov off the scoreboard through 4 games, and with a stunned crowd cheering them on in their first playoff series, the Sharks skated out for Game 5 with tenacity. Makarov, the hero in Game 4, notched the first goal at 2:47 with the first shot at the game. And on the team's next shot, Todd Ellick snuck one past Osgood for a 2-0 lead. Bowman pulled Osgood for Essensa, and his team received the message. Paul Coffey and Ray Shepard tied things up heading into first intermission. The Sharks had averaged the fewest shots on goal per game in the NHL during the regular season, and they didn't fare much better at generating chances in this series, averaging just over 22 shots on net. Nonetheless, the Soviet style of play lent itself well to Team Teal. At 18:45 into the second period, Larionov connected once more with Makarov to put the Sharks back on top 3-2. Ulf Dahlin extended the lead just 2:08 into the third, and once Nicholas Lidstrom and the Wings punched back, the Sharks countered with a tally of their own. The future captain in red scored twice in the third, but the Sharks answered back quickly to come away victorious 6-4, and most importantly, head back to Detroit with the series lead. Back at Joe Louis Arena, now under immense pressure, the Red Wings elite finally delivered. After 5 games without a goal, the Selke, Pearson, and Hart Trophy winning Sergei Fedorov lit the lamp first at 2:03. Following a San Jose penalty at 14:06, the Wings pounced for 3 more goals in 96 seconds. 85 seconds into the second period, Captain Steve Yzerman finally got on the board, and Detroit cruised the rest of the way, triumphing 7-1. I suspect that to a lot of the hockey world, it looked like the stacked Red Wings had finally shaken off the rust and stopped playing down to their opponent. Sure, Osgood was up and down, but the Wings controlled the shot clock and now had their top-end talent lighting the lamp. However, the Sharks were playing like a team that may never get a chance in the playoffs ever again. Remember, 11-20-7 to start the season. And who better to catalyze a Game 7 stalemate than one of the IIHF's Centennial Team All-Stars, Sergei Makarov. Recognizing an odd-man rush, Makarov passed back to Larionov, who found Sandis Ozolynch on the goal line, who one-timed the puck to Johan Garpenlaw for the tap-in, just 47 seconds into the game. 14 minutes in, Makarov carried the puck into the Detroit zone, switching to his backhand in a one-on-one matchup. He drizzled the puck toward the net, but the off-balanced Osgood couldn't square his pads to the shot. 2-0 Sharks at the Joe. Frustrated by the deficit, among other things, Fedorov took a double minor for intentionally cross-checking Jason Moore in the head at 1934. But rather than capitalize on the man advantage, the Sharks surrendered a shorthanded goal to Chris Draper 13 seconds later. The Red Wings built on the momentum early in period 2. Working with heavy net front traffic, Vyacheslav Kozlov knifed a backhand past a diving Arturs Irbe to tie the game at 2. The two teams stayed locked in their chess match heading into the third period. Finally, at 13 minutes into the final stanza, Gaetan Duchesne stood up Darren McCarty in the neutral zone, handing the puck to Ray Whitney. Number 14 evaded the defender and flipped the puck toward the corner boards, pursuing relentlessly. Osgood came out to play the puck, flipping a backhand against the boards. However, the puck quickly ricocheted to Jamie Baker's stick. Bakes immediately sent the puck to the net, crossing the goal line well before Osgood could reset himself. Arturs Irbe shut the door, saving 28 of 30 Detroit shots, and in their first playoff series ever, the Sharks pulled off their most impressive victory to this day. San Jose nearly repeated the magic against the third-seeded Toronto Maple Leafs in the next round, heading into Game 6 with a 3-2 series lead. But Johan Garpenlov's overtime shot dinged off the crossbar, and from there, the Sharks' conference finals hopes faded. Nonetheless, the city of San Jose embraced Team Teal for life upon their return home. As for Yzerman, Fedorov, Lidstrom, and coach Scotty Bowman, they would finally relieve Detroit of its cup drought in 1997 and once again in 1998. Okay, my friends, so there you go. The best 5 series right there, capping off with the 1994 conference quarterfinals against the Detroit Red Wings. I know that obviously that was a long time ago, 26 years ago, in the franchise's first season in San Jose, so that's really monumental in that they moved down here, first time there was ever a real professional team in San Jose, and they had immense success in the postseason and nearly got all the way to the conference finals. I wish that I was around and following the Sharks that closely at that time. I remember going to games kind of back then, but I had no idea that this team could actually do something that would, I guess, kind of build that culture that would eventually, on a consistent basis, get into the playoffs and eventually win some series too. So that's a huge series. Obviously, it's cool to have guys like Jamie Baker still around and now on the broadcast team with Randy Hahn, who was broadcasting that series as well. Of course, some people might think that the Vegas series should be at number 1. And again, I think that in terms of kind of like intensity and just that comeback, I think that you can certainly argue that it's right up there. But in terms of impact, I mean, that was just the first round. We didn't exactly get to the Stanley Cup Finals that year. We came close, but even so, there was also the controversy that kind of mires that series a little bit. It's still a wonderful series, and of course, come on, you can't, you can't just look past what the Sharks did in 2016 too, reaching the conference finals, going up against the St. Louis Blues and winning that series to get to the Cup Finals. So, all in all, some great runs that the Sharks have been on, some bad ones, of course, as I've recapped before, but nonetheless, just amazing stories to tell Sharks fans, old and new, and share on this YouTube channel. I hope that you've enjoyed the series, and if you did, be sure to click the big thumbs up there, and for those of you who haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel for more San Jose Sharks coverage. This has been Nick with Twisted Wrister Hockey. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll see you again soon.